Good evening, guys. Welcome to this channel where we're going to discuss everything pertaining academic writing, article writing, and SEO writing, and any other thing related to online or work stuff. For this purpose, we are basically going to look at how to write an effective thesis statement or how to write a strong thesis statement and see how possible we can craft our papers. So before we go on, please kindly take a second and subscribe to the channel so that anytime we upload a new video on how to do academic writing and article writing, you'll get notification and catch up with us in terms of learning how to do the writings and everything pertaining it. So in any type of writing, whether you are writing an academic paper, whether it is a journal or an article, whether it is a CEO or whether it is a book, we always have a central point of argument. And the central point of argument is a very important part of the writing because it helps us to know, or helps the readers to know what exactly the writer is all about. It's the central theme of the paper or the central theme of the book, what the writer is trying to communicate. In academic writing, it is the position of the writer and it's an argument the writer is trying to put out. So whenever you are writing, you need to have your central point of view at which you're going to discuss your paper or at which you're going to put the article, everything pertaining that article around it. But just coming with the argument is always not easy. And that is why you find that in most cases, there are people who write good papers or good books, and others are writing averagely good papers, while others write very poor papers. So the quality of the paper revolves around the quality of your thesis statement or the quality of your argument. In any case you are doing any writing, you need to make a very strong thesis statement or an argument that a reader can know exactly what you're talking about. So in this case, writing a strong thesis statement starts with defining what a thesis statement is. And somebody might ask, what actually is this thesis statement? That is especially when you are new in writing. But for those who've been writing, they know what that thesis statement is. But there are people who've been writing, but still they cannot produce such quality papers. So you find that the first thing that you need to do is always to define what the thesis statement of your paper is. And that can only happen if you know what thesis statement is all about. So let's look at what the thesis statement is all about. So in terms of definition, a thesis statement is a claim or argument, and it is an argument that announces the position of the writer or of your paper. A claim that you put forward at the beginning of your paper, and it in most cases that takes place in uh, first paragraph or in of the introductory paragraph. And the thesis statement always summarizes the main points of your paper, and it is always in about 1 to 2 sentences. In most cases, it is a one sentence, but in other cases, can go up to about 2 sentences. So when you want to place your thesis statement, whenever you write any paper, it's supposed to appear at the end of the introductory paper or the introductory paragraph for that case. So just a quick one. You'll see that there's three elements of that thesis writing or thesis statement. One, it's an argument, and then two, it summarizes the main point, and three is that it appears at the end of the introductory paragraph. Your first paragraph is an introductory paragraph, and at the end of it, there should be a claim announcing the position of the paper or the position of the writer. So apart from just knowing what the thesis statement is all about, or there are kind of requirements that we need to put in place for us to write a strong thesis statement. So what are these requirements? The first requirement for you to come up with a strong thesis statement is that you're supposed to identify the main topic of your paper. For example, somebody might write a paper that is developed out of a narration. So probably like you're writing an essay, and this essay has got a very lengthy question. So from that question or from that story, you need to come up with the topic, and it be a precise topic, a topic that communicates to the reader. So after identifying that topic, you are supposed to take a position and state your argument. You come up with a topic, then you do the research over that topic, get the main points of that topic, good understanding of the topic, and then decide your position or derive the argument. After deriving the argument, you're supposed now to summarize the evidence that you'll incorporate to support your argument. You don't just have an argument. The argument must be summarized. And that also brings us to something about thesis statement, that thesis statement is not just a statement, but it must be debatable. It can be argued. There's kind of statements that you can't argue. If you just write a statement that you cannot argue or people cannot refute it, then that is not a thesis statement. In writing thesis statement or in writing your paper, when you state the thesis statement, you need to ensure that people can debate around it. There are facts to support it, and as well, somebody can refute it. So, for you to have the facts to support it, there must be evidence that are supporting that thesis statement. So, just by doing a wrap up of that, you need to identify your topic. Once you've identified that topic, you need to do the research over that topic so that you have a good grasp of that topic or that study area. So after doing the research and you mobilize all the facts that you need, then you take a position based on the research that you've done. After taking the position, you need to have a good evidence to support your position. Actually, getting the evidence should come before taking the position, because you take the position based on the evidence that you're having and you are also in agreement with that evidence. So after summarizing the evidence, then you are supposed now to start your writing. So before even just to start writing, we need to understand that there are specific steps that we are supposed to take when we are writing our thesis statement. So the thesis statement require a given procedures, and the first procedure is that you need to develop a research question. After having your research topic, develop a research question. Developing a research question will help you narrow down to a specific element of the paper, a given variable that is under study, so that you come up with a very peculiar evidence or information to support that writing. For example, you can say what were the main factors that led to the emergence of civil rights movement. So you see, by stating what were the main factors, that is a question on its own, and it is a question that can be researched. So if you are doing the search, you'll do the factors that led to emergence of civil rights movement. So having that question, it can help you frame your thesis statement, or it can help you gather the evidence that you'll be using in writing. The second step, you are supposed to find an alternative answer to the research question that you've developed. After developing that research question, you need to go further and then look for the answers to that question. For example, you can say that civil rights movement was driven by socioeconomic and political frustrations of the Black Americans. So that will mark the first answer that you've gotten out of your search. Then after finding the alternative answers, then you need to keep developing and refining your thesis statement. Redeveloping and refining your thesis statement will help you have a greater look of that paper and even more refined answers. And this will make you uh, updating your thesis statement. Another funny thing with the thesis statement is that it is not written once. It's something that you can write at the beginning, but then later on, as you write your paper, you realize that you are not actually more confined to that thesis statement. So you'll go back and update your thesis statement based on what you've written. So it is something that you keep on improving. You find that in some cases, others write it after writing the conclusion of the paper. In most cases, people do write it first at the introductory because it's a guide. But rewriting it after conclusion is even good, because you write it at the introductory, but by the time you complete the paper and you've gone through your paper, you can rewrite it in terms of modifying it to fit what you've discussed. So it's good to keep developing it and refining the thesis statement. So when doing that when you are refining that thesis statement, you can maybe find that based on our question, we can say that civil rights movement was fueled by discrimination, segregation, and violence against African Americans. If you compare the two, the first answer that we got, we say that civil rights movement was driven by socioeconomic and political frustrations of the Black Americans. So further refining or further search over that topic, you find that we come up with another thesis statement, which is more or less the same with the first one, but is more refined. So we restate it as civil rights movement was fueled by discrimination, segregation, and violence against African Americans. If you compare this one or the last after refining with the alternative answer, you'll find that the last one here is more refined and more robust in terms of the depth of the paper. So, apart from the strategies or maybe the process used in writing thesis statement, there are also qualities or traits of a strong thesis statement. Because any other person can write a thesis statement, and that thesis statement, is it one that is more communicative? Is it clear, or is it strong or effective as compared to the other? So those are the differences. There are some that are really fallible or they are very weak, but there are some that will be considered effective because they communicate clearly the position of the writer. So one of the qualities of a strong thesis statement is that it is concise. So a concise statement is one that has got no general and vague words. It's one that avoids jargon, very concise and precise, that it communicate clearly what somebody is trying to talk about or what the writer is talking about. The second thing, it must be disputable. Your thesis statement must be disputable in the sense that people can argue it, you can debate it, people can refute it, and can also others can also support it. So it opens both sides of discussion when somebody is trying to ponder about it. So in that case, is that the reader can debate the argument or refute it. So the third trait is that it must be coherent. And it is coherent to the extent that it is in line with the topic, the argument and the evidence are presented in logical manner. The coherency starts with the topic. Does it support the topic, or does it is it in line with the topic? And then the second part of coherent is that does the topic, the argument, and evidence are presented in logical manner? Are they adhering? Are they agreeing in some aspect? Is there tandem? Is the thesis statement in tandem to your topic? So apart from that, we have also different types of thesis statement, just like we have different types of writing. And every writing style will go with a given type of thesis statement. So in a case where we have an argumentative writing or essay, we will go with what we call argumentative thesis statement. And argumentative thesis statement takes a very clear position that persuades the reader. It gives an argument that clearly persuades the reader to buy the idea or the point, and by trying to argue a certain point or position or a certain theory. The other type of writing, we have expository writing, and in expository writing we use an expository thesis statement. In expository thesis statement, it's a thesis statement that is trying to exploring more facts about the topic. So in that case, it analyze, evaluate, it assess that the topic and adds conclusion that you'll draw from the paper. So in this case, you'll find that in such kind of thesis statement, it is always in a two sentence, whereby the first part states the claim, and the second part draws the conclusion. So that by the time you're making a conclusion of the paper, it is in touch or it is in line with your thesis statement. So if you are writing an exploratory paper or expository paper, you are supposed to use what we call expository thesis statement, and those are the statements that are trying to evaluate or analyze or assess. An example of expository thesis statement can be This history of civil rights movement has been complicated since its emergence because the people of color have been constantly aggressive about creating change in political, economy, and social operations in America. That is what we call expository. It exposes you as the reader into new concepts or into factors that contributed to the emergence of what? Emergence of civil rights movement. Apart from the two, we have also analytical thesis statement, and this is for mostly analytical papers, or what we call analytical papers. Analytical papers do more of analysis. They analyze the concepts, or they analyze given scenario, phenomena, and all that. So in analytical thesis, they explain and illustrate facts about the topic. In that, it summarizes all the main points that the paper will cover. Even that in most cases, people take the approach of analytical thesis statement, even where the paper is not analytical. But when the paper is more analytical, it's even better because such kind of thesis statement or papers are more robust. Issues are discussed in their full length, and you find that a reader can enjoy such kind of papers because it's well developed, and somebody can be able to spot the factors or maybe the main point of argument at the thesis statement and know that while developing the body, he is expecting to see such kind of what? Such kind of variables. So for example, in our case where we are referring to about the emergence of civil rights movement, analytical thesis statement may take this version. We may say that civil rights movement was caused by many factors such as segregation, violence, and discrimination against Black Americans. Analytical, you find that we have the segregation given and the violence and discrimination. You may realize that it is more of listing the factors. So, for example, if you use analytical thesis statement, it gives you an easy way of writing into subtitles because in most cases when you're writing a paper, and that paper is probably more than 3 pages, it's advised that you have some subtitles so that it helps the reader to understand the key themes in that paper. So in most cases, that is the basic way of writing a strong thesis statement. And in summary, what you just need to know about writing a thesis statement or a strong thesis statement is that it's supposed to be at the end of your introductory paragraph, and then it announces the position of the writer. The thesis statement should be concise, it should be disputable, and it should be coherent. And then your thesis statement should have a support of facts, and that thesis statement should be based on the type of paper you are writing, if it is analytical, if it is expository, or if it is argumentative. So anytime you are writing, you're supposed to redefine your thesis statement. Don't just write thesis statement at the beginning and then do your writing up to the end. You do conclusion and then you leave it like that. Always write, complete the paper, make the conclusion or even the recommendation if required, and then go back, reread the paper as you proofread it, just to check if your thesis statement is in line with what you've discussed. If it is not such strong, then you are supposed to modify it or redefine it based on the status of your paper. And that will help you write a very good paper. So as we continue, we'll discuss more about thesis statement. We'll discuss more about how to do a research, how to write research papers and all that. And for this session, thank you so much. And let's keep it for another video. Please remember to subscribe and share what we've discussed in this class. See you in the next session. Thank you.